Hey, sports fans. We're back with more Shacknews Awards. These deliberation days are kind of melting into each other. But yeah, we have reassembled our team, minus our resident Australian who's out there writing Destiny 2 and Halo guides for the people, Sam Chandler. But everyone else is here. We've already done our introductions and whatnot, so we're gonna get into it. Today we're kicking off with the best puzzle game of 2021. So I'll put it out to the panel here. Anyone have a nomination they'd like to make?
I think good job. I was gonna I was gonna throw It Takes Two into that ring. Co-op game, couch co-op. It's just a good like classic puzzler. It's not like a mind bender. It's not a triumph to beat, but there's a lot of like fun puzzles that cleverly all incorporate the co-op aspect of the game into it. I played through with my brother and we had a good time kind of figuring out a lot of the puzzles with each other.
Yeah,
So I
there's a
think that's
lot of
definitely
like
worthy.
physics kind of puzzles that require teamwork. There's not much of a spoiler here. Early on, there's a vacuum cleaner level. You're in this game, you're shrunk down characters, and it's kind of like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids environment. So you're taking on this vacuum cleaner, and a lot of it was about positioning hoses the right way to get one character over an obstacle, and then that character would then have to do something. There was a point where one character gets a hammer weapon, the other one gets like a nail weapon, and the merger of those two weapons into the puzzle design was really cool. And that game's
Yeah.
kind of full of stuff like
What I
that.
really like about it is that because it's a co-op experience, the puzzles are never at a point where there's frustration. So you always get to keep that kind of lighthearted enjoyment between the two people playing
Hmm.
and still having engaging puzzles. Plus my wife would vote for it. She doesn't get a vote, but she would because she got to shoot me out of a vacuum cleaner. So
Yeah, but I would also say that there's no penalty for death or failure
right,
in this
right,
game,
yeah,
which in a puzzle game is kind of rare. Puzzle games like to make you pull your hair out a lot of the time.
hmm
So it's nice that you can just, oh, I screwed that up, immediately, right where you were, jump back into that puzzle. Sometimes, not, and this isn't true of every puzzle game, but sometimes you reset the entire state and you have to go all the way back to the beginning. Other
yeah.
times you have to go back to the beginning of a challenge or something. This game is like, and it goes beyond just the puzzle aspect. I like that there's no penalty for dying in this game.
It prioritizes the fun over just being like a really ridiculously tough puzzle, for example. Like
Hmm.
it's a fun puzzle, it's kind of creative, it's quirky, but fun is always at the top of the list, which I think is true with most games, but maybe it just does it really well. So
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, for the
That's a
most
solid
part,
nomination by Donovan there.
yeah.
Go
Like
ahead, Blake.
beyond the boss fights, it's really just like one big environmental puzzle, like each level, and it's engaging. You want to play more of it, Like sometimes you can burn out on puzzle games really quickly, but this one I'm compelled to go forward because not only is it fun to play, but they added an excellent story element to it as well, which I think
Yeah.
helps you, like yeah, I guess it's just tough enough. It's like it's got that like Goldilocks porridge just right mixture going with a lot of the puzzles where they're not too easy and they're not too tough, and you're like you can figure it out with a friend and have a ton of fun playing for multiple hours on
I will say a good puzzle game has to make you feel dumb at times, and It Takes Two does have moments like that where you're like, "Oh, I had to do that with the hose," or "Oh, you were supposed to do this." Like there are those moments where, to Blake's point, like you don't get stuck for a day on a puzzle, but you do get stuck on things for like 5 to 10 minutes sometimes, where you're like, "Oh, we're dumb." And I think that's a hallmark of a good puzzle game is making the player feel kind of dumb.
Yeah, amusing deaths too. Like
Yeah.
there were a few times where like I would hit a
Oh,
button,
the fan button.
the
I
fan
kept-
button.
Yeah, Blake was trying to jump over. There's like these 3 fans in one section. He was trying to jump across, and I like kept switching it at the wrong time and just chopping him into bits, and laughing
Yeah.
hysterically as I did it.
I remember that very specifically. And going back to your point about deaths, I really enjoy the fact that because you can restart immediately, like you die and then you're just right back, it gives you the confidence to just go buck it and try something, right? Like you're not like, should I really try
Yeah.
jumping through that fan? Like just jump through it because 10 seconds
That'll
later,
be-
you're good. So it encourages you to have fun and do things, and those moments they're hilarious, especially like with a co-op partner, which obviously this is. So watching your buddy or your wife get chopped up in a cartoon fan is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, you can play it one like as a singular person, but I feel like you got to go out there and find this game is like made for friends to play together.
You can play this game single player?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does that work? Do you control both
AI,
players, or
I think
there's like
AI.
an AI component? Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know why you'd want to do that. It's so
It seems
just
like it
made
would be
for-
not fun.
Yeah.
It sounds like Resident Evil 5. I don't know if I want that
Yeah.
experience.
The AI is actually pretty savvy. Amy and I played this together, but I looked into playing solo, and they're actually it's you get just as much enjoyment out of solving the puzzles, but playing with another human adds that extra layer to it, considering that the story is about these 2 people trying to work through their problems.
And like we'll get into it more with best co-op, but like the mini games that you find in like the middle of every level, those are built for person versus person. You don't get
Yeah.
nearly the same enjoyment out of it against an AI.
Yeah, the
Oh, yeah.
whack-a-mole game was fun. Yeah, they got some good mini games in there. I saw you can actually just launch the mini games from the menu. Like if you
Once
just
you
wanna-
unlock them, yeah,
Yeah,
it's really
Yeah,
cool.
once
That's awesome.
like if you just feel like playing a mini game from It Takes Two, once you've beaten the game, you can just log in and play that, which is cool.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good nomination. Anyone else got something they want to nominate here?
I got a couple I'm split between,
Oh.
and one of the I reviewed this earlier this year, and I didn't give it a fair chance because I had gone through this experience in real life and it wasn't so much fun. But Unpacking is a nice little relaxing puzzle type game where it's basically you have a bunch of boxes, you're moving into a new place, and you're trying to sort everything out put it wherever it goes. And there is a sort of puzzly element to it because at the end, if you leave something on the floor, if you put something where it's not supposed to be, it'll tell you, hey, this does not go here. So there's a bit of a challenge in there. I didn't really give it a fair shake when I reviewed it because I was just like, I just went through this moving out of my condo. I did not care for it. So at the time I was just like, eh. But looking back at it, there's a fun little element to this.
See, like the thing of it is with Unpacking is you talk about how like if there's something left over or something is in the wrong place, you have to keep doing it. And to me, I feel like that takes away like from what's interesting about Unpacking to me is just sort of like organizing things how you want them to be organized, and for the game to come in. And I guess that's what makes it a puzzler, maybe, but it's also for me it takes away from what I think is interesting about the main concept of the game.
And
if that makes any sense.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, Blake, because if you are like me and you get frustrated with that, you just go to the options, you turn that setting off, and then it lets you just throw in wherever you want, just like in real life.
There you go.
And
So it's almost like the puzzling aspect of it is like secondary or arbitrary in some ways.
Almost, yeah. And the other one is a bit of a late entry this year, and that's Big Brain Academy, Big Brain versus Brain. And I was a huge fan of the original Big Brain Academy on DS, and this is more of that. But why change what's broken? Like the logic puzzles that it throws at you, the different kinds of brain things that it tests you on, like it's a lot of fun. The frantic pace is what really makes it for me, and the fact that you can go multiplayer either with live friends or you can take on like Ghost Data, which actually the Ghost Data is really solid. So I've had a lot of fun with Big Brain Academy over the last week. And
I have a question about it, Ozzy.
Yes.
Because the brain training games and Flash Focus and a lot of these were all born on the DS,
Yes.
and a large part of the gameplay was the touch screen. Acting quickly, writing numbers down in the math parts or whatever. How did they adapt that to Switch? Like, is there a touchscreen component?
There is
Is this
absolutely a touchscreen component,
okay?
and in fact, when I was playing against Ghost Data, I actually got prompted at one point to remove the Switch from the dock because it
Oh,
says, "Oh, this is touchscreen only." And
interesting.
but what's also fun is if you have somebody in the room with you, you can actually just do a tabletop mode for the Switch, and you can both can just get your half of the screen, and then you just use touch controls.
Oh,
It's
okay.
really it's really interesting the way they implemented that. I really enjoyed it. And one last shout out to Yacht Club Games for getting their game in a little late, but I'm actually really Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon is not what I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be a very rudimentary puzzle game, but there's a combat element to it. Like if you line up if you line up all the icons and like you take them out, like they all go at the same time, whatever, like any standard puzzle game. But if they're enemies, they'll fight back, and they all have different strategies. If you're not careful, they'll kill you, and if they kill you, there's a cooldown, and in that cooldown, like the entire screen can fill up and you just die.
Huh.
So it's really interesting the way they've done it, and there's a big roguelike element to it, and I was very surprised by Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon, and my only regret is that they got this out too late because none of y'all can try it. Unfortunately, like at the time we're recording this, the game's not out yet. It'll be out like I think in the next week.
Yeah, that's kind of late.
Yeah, but shout out to Yacht Club for trying anyway because that's really solid from what I've seen of it so far.
Is that on mobile and console, or
And
what is it?
PC. Yeah,
And
I'm playing it
PC?
on PC right now.
Okay, interesting. And Big Brain Academy just came out like last week, right?
It came out on 5 days ago at
Okay.
the time we're recording this.
Cool. TJ, I think you had a nomination.
Yeah, Sherlock Holmes Chapter 1. This came out of Frogwares, who has been handling Sherlock Holmes for a long, long time, and man, do they have a handle on the formula! Like, it is it is a pure investigative quest. They're Everything in the game is built around just like a form of investigation, a form of logical puzzle solving, a form of piecing like everything together to figure out what happened in any given crime. And like the way in which they set it up, in which studying evidence, putting it together, like they have this system where you pin evidence as equipment in any other game. You actually go into your menu and like pin that piece of evidence up and equip yourself with that fact, and that will like influence how Sherlock interacts with a person, with an object in the environment, or how he interacts with putting a crime scene together. I think what really got me about this game is that like I love the heck out of puzzle games. I love a puzzle game. I love a puzzle that actually forces me to put my imagination to the test and figure out how these pieces fit together. And it doesn't like insult your intelligence in that way. It can be a little bit esoteric at times, how like a person is involved or like a suspect is involved. But once it all comes together, it makes sense. And like there's a thing called the Mind Palace in the game, and it's where as you discover facts, as you discover like evidence, as you discover truths, you have the option with Sherlock to begin to deduce certain facts of the case. And what that leads to in major cases is that since they didn't have like forensics back then, sometimes the evidence leads to a point where you have to like just decide what you believe happened. Like there's an early case in which you have to figure out who killed this wife of this rich person, and it could either be her husband who caught her stealing, or it could be this fortune teller, sneak thief swindler who recognized her as a fellow thief trying to pin a crime on him and killed her in rage. And the evidence in the game makes it so that both of those possible outcomes are plausible. And I think that's an interesting thing because, like, as much as truth should be objective, truth is also kind of what we see, and the game like pushes that it pushes that concept to a very interesting level. So like there are a lot of cool puzzle games throughout this year, but like I don't think anything engaged my mind in a way that Sherlock Holmes did.
Cool. It's a solid nomination. I feel like did we review Chicory this year?
I don't think we did.
We didn't,
We
but
definitely previewed it.
we previewed it, yeah.
Would you guys consider that a puzzler?
It is because you use color to influence the environment and open paths. But yeah, I would say it's a puzzle adventure game.
Okay. I feel like we should mention it. That's a game that I think kind of went under the radar, but is very cute and fun.
Mm-hmm.
Any other nominees here, or do you think you guys are ready to vote?
Ready to vote.
Okay. Well, if you're ready, let's kick it off with you, David.
A Sherlock game sounds great. Unfortunately, I haven't played it. I have played a good bit of It Takes Two with Amy, and I really like that, so I'll have to vote for It Takes Two.
Okay. Danny, what you got?
I'm going with It Takes Two. Like to Bill's point, you know, that never makes me feel like I'm hassling or anything while I'm playing. It really eased you into feeling good about trying things out, which I really like.
Nice. Donovan, you nominated It Takes Two. I'm guessing you're going to vote for it?
Yep, It Takes Two.
Greg?
Yeah, It Takes Two is really fun. My wife and I are having like everyone else is, my wife and I are having fun playing it. She's really reactive and likes the puzzles and stuff.
Mm-hmm. TJ sticking with Sherlock Holmes?
Sure am.
Ozzy?
I'm going to stay with Big Brain Academy.
I need to pick that up. Bill?
It Takes Two.
Blake?
I was gonna nominate It Takes Two if Donovan didn't, so yeah, that's gonna get my vote.
Chris?
I'll go with Sherlock Holmes.
Cool. You know, It Takes Two has some good puzzles in it, but to me, it's more than a puzzle game. Like it's a platformer, it's an adventure game, it's a narrative game. I think there's a lot to it. But yeah, the puzzles are good. I out of all of these, the one that I really think is going to be a puzzle game that I'm going to be playing for more than just. It seems like It Takes Two is a game that you're going to play through and then you're kind of done, right? If you look at past puzzle game winners, like we've given this to, what's that? Baba is You.
Yeah.
Baba Is You, right? Like that's a game that has a ton of replay value. I look for that in puzzle games, so I'm gonna go with Ozzy and Big Brain Academy. But it doesn't matter. My vote didn't matter. Actually, let's see what Sam put, just for the sake of looking at Sam's votes, right? Where is this?
I wouldn't be surprised if It Takes Two was something he and Lauren played together, but I could be wrong.
He put down Dorf Romantic, I think.
He did? Okay. So yeah, his vote does not sway the results at all. Let me get my gavel real quick. So yeah, It Takes Two. 6 to 2 to 2 to 1 wins the Shacknews Best Puzzle Game of 2021. Congratulations.
This is the story of Cody and Meg.
Why'd you look like a blob of clay?
Wanna change back? Then you need to fix your relationship.